Okay, so I have something a little bit different today from Tsiah. What's the deal with witch on the holy night? So yeah, I was trying to see what was related to, and then even someone requested this to me, saying like one of the most important things of type moon. So yeah, just make sure to look at this. And there's another one with the same witch from Tsiah, so I'll just look at that as well. But yeah, let's see what so important about this. Got a good 14 minutes here. So yeah, I really don't have much else to say. So hope you guys will enjoy this. Make sure to like, subscribe, and let's get this reaction started.
Going on, man? New year, more Type Moon. It's a movie. Now, before we get off into it, I will say that I'm gonna refrain from believing that they baited us because there's still information coming out on these announcements. But in the meantime, we did come out with a few W's, one of them being another trailer for Witch on the Holy Night. So for all the people who don't know,
so that's the literal name.
Mahoyo
Okay.
before, this is that same series. Mahoyo being short for Mahotsukai no Yoru, which is the full name before it's translated. This is the story that centers around the Awazaki sisters, Toko and her sister Aoko. Aoko being the main protagonist here. Of course, it is all Type Moon related, so it's in the same verse as Fate, it's in the same verse as Kara no Kyokai, Tsukihime. All of these things share common elements, but they have different driving factors to the main points in their story. As far as Mahoyo goes, this story is actually the first canonically in the timeline, which is funny because
I ain't gonna
the
lie, she got that
original
on
didn't
the
come out
right.
until 2012.
I
So
don't know
it
something
actually
about
was
it.
published last in terms of having access to it. It takes place back in the 1980s, but this should come as no surprise. We all know Type Moon is a big fan of putting things out of order, as you can clearly see with Fate. Still don't have a Fate route, by the way. It's pretty uniform at this point, so no surprise there. This trailer is amazing. Don't let anybody tell you different. I know the
Of course, it's
are gonna
Fate.
pop out and make a big deal about everything. They're already saying that Aoko is looking like a Ren clone. Let us just have nice things. All right, they want to blow it up before we even start, but it looks good, it looks accurate. As I mentioned in the other video, Type Moon is always on point with the music. That doesn't surprise me at all. And we're gonna go through some of the shots from the trailer just to gloss over what's happening in case people wanted to know. We talked a lot about Aoko and Toko's power in terms of where they stand in the verse. You know, I've already mentioned that they're some of the most formidable mages in the verse just based on their design, but we never really got into their story and how they got there. So at the time of Mahoyo, the idea was, and you guys already know that with a mage family, only one person can inherit the crest, usually. And you see how that turned out with the Tosuka family and how that ended up splitting up Ren and Sakura. Well, this is following a very similar format where you have these two sisters and only one can get chosen as the heir. And the person that was supposed to get the magic crest was Toko. She had trained her entire life in order to do so. Lo and behold, right before their grandfather passed away, he pulled the switcheroo and said, actually, you know what? I think Aoko would be a better fit for the crest. And this pretty much left Toko to bite the dust in terms of inheritance. Now she's hella mad because she's feeling like, you know, you built me up all this time to get this, and then it's time for me to get it, and now you're giving it away. And on the flip side, you have Aoko, who was largely just living a normal life, and now she has to play catch up to Toko in just a couple of years. But since she does have great potential, it does allow her to figure out things in her own way to a certain degree. And again, it is done by Ufotable. Gorgeous visuals as usual. It's been a while though. The last films that we had from Ufotable was Heaven's Field, and it may not seem like it, but that's been a long time now. So it's good to see them back doing some Type Moon work. When you first open up the trailer, this is in fact the Kuonji mansion. This is where majority of the story takes place, and this isn't Aoko's mansion. This is actually the estate of a friend to the Awazaki family, the Meinsters. And since the Meinsters and the Awazakis were locked in, they've been cool since the Meinsters moved over to Japan. The Awazakis gained their favor, and Aoko ended up being sent over to the mansion in order to expedite her training. Reason being is that the descendant for the Meisters is Alice. Love Alice, by the way. And Alice is a witch, and this is something unlike anything that we've seen before in Type Moon, really, because there's not a lot of priority to witches. So she does specialize in witchcraft, and she has access to spells that are over 1,000 years old. I would say that her greatest strength is that she's super versatile. She has power in numbers. But more than that, she has a lot of knowledge that'll help Alco fill in the gap. So they've been working together. And in the meantime, you have Toko, who has come back for revenge for being abandoned by the family, by her grandfather, essentially. The problem is the entire town where Mahoyo takes place, Masaki Town, is surrounded by a bounded field. And the Awazakis
that looks amazing right there.
Over the ley lines. Inside of this barrier, it goes straight back into the Magic Crest. So there's nothing that Toko can do in terms of reaching the root realistically until she's able to eliminate the markers that keep up this field. And that's what she's been working on. So when the scene comes up in the trailer where they're going off into the night, Alco and Alice go out to the park in order to lure out Toko, because Toko hitting these markers are now affecting the ley lines and it's messing with the Awazaki's magical influence. They go out to the park and Toko doesn't come herself, she actually sends one of her puppets. So when you see Alco turn around like she's surprised, that's what she saw. She saw one of Toko's puppets and immediately fried it, hoping that it was her. Mind you that neither one of them know that she's come back and she's hitting these markers. They just know that somebody's doing it. The issue with her destroying the puppet is that somebody's been trailing them. Somebody saw them. And in the world of mages, where you're supposed to keep the mystery intact, somebody else seeing you deploy your spells just out and about is an issue. And the person that saw all of this was Sojiro. Sojiro is actually a trained combatant that used to live up in the mountains. He comes from a special group that used to be trained to fight off beasts, but other than that, he's just a normal human. But despite the fact of him being human, he does have this unique affinity for mysticism. So when Alice and Alco were out in the night, even though Alice actually put a barrier around them in order to stop the average person from seeing, Sojiro still saw through it. And since they realized that he found out, they had to get rid of him. So that's what you see later on in the trailer. This time they go to Kisiland, which by the time that the story comes around is an abandoned theme park. They end up luring Sojiro out. He runs into the House of Mirrors, and that's the person that you see Alco chasing down relentlessly. Little does she know that behind her, she is also being chased by another one of Toko's puppets, even more proficient than the one that she went against before, because the puppet itself.
Okay, yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm trying to see like
Alco. So it's a lot better.
Yeah, what type of puppet are we talking about here?
So while she's trying to chase down Sojiro, she ends up getting whacked in her circuits by the puppet, and this puts her in a bad state, to the point where she ends up cutting a deal with Sojiro, saying we gotta team up until I figure this out with the puppet. And that's how they end up becoming a group. As a matter of fact, it's a lot like the beginning of Stay Night with Shiro and Rin. It follows a very similar format. Hey, I can't take this person on by myself, you can't take them on by yourself either, let's just figure it out together for the time being. And that time being just ends up as something that's pushed to the side. One thing to point out about Sojiro is that he actually has a very similar background to Kazuki, the one that teaches at Hamarohara in Fate, the one that Saber fought against. He also was trained in the village, but in his case it was to be an assassin. And so they have these formats that relate to each other. So you could see Sojiro as the prototype to him, or just somebody that came from that same background. They were raised in these villages as people that were fostered. You get to the end of the trailer, and this actually really surprised me, the way that they did this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at this trailer to like really see what he's talking about.
You know, tapping into her magic crest and using the merits of having that Awazaki background instilled in her. This has a lot of different variations. The one that we see in the trailer is just one of many, but her whole thing at the time was that she didn't want to go all the way into the true magic, so she overloaded herself. She overloaded her circuits and her crest as much as she possibly could to fire off her shots. You have all this red and blue electricity, and again, it looks fantastic. My thing is, I was just surprised that they didn't make any cuts in the sequence. Usually when they do trailers like this, they give you just enough, but here it's like they just played it all the way through to let you know what you're actually getting. And there's so much to the scene and what happens after it that while it might seem like it's a lot, there's still a lot going on the other side. Too much for it to even make a difference. So the reason why she's even firing her gun in the first place is because Alice is pissed off. You know, despite her being cool with Alco before, despite their family's mutual agreements, she still follows that witch background at heart. She takes it very serious. So when Alco spared Sojiro, she was like, oh, I'm just gonna have to kill both of y'all then. And she was not joking. She is really on that. So Alice, and the reason why her name is Alice is because she has this Alice in Wonderland type background.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Of her spells are of the same
some
nature.
Alice
They're
in
very
Wonderland.
otherworldly. And more than just her being a witch and having these witches in her background, her ancestor Yumina actually used the first true magic. So her bloodline has a lot going on for them. And with that in mind, Alice has all types of unique spells and familiars that she can deploy that have been passed down to her. One of them being Flat Snark. This is the vial that you see her holding and toss up when the shot is aimed on her. That vial contains the stomach fat of an actual god, and it literally starts to manifest as a bounded field that brings the area to life. It brings the amusement park to life. So instead of the amusement park being abandoned, she's
I
being
can see it.
attacked by
I think
And
some
Flat
teeth or
Snark
something,
is pretty much
maybe.
this oil that hangs up in the air behind these green clouds, but the base of it revolves around the moon. You would have to have enough power and reserves to even be able to shoot it down, which in the case of most mages, this would already be GG's. So that is the root of the end sequence where you see Alco shooting this huge magical bullet into the air. She literally risked her life overloading her circuits in order to take Flat Snark down, because if she didn't, they both were going to die. She had to. It was a high cost to even be there in the first place, so she might as well, right? As far as Mahoyo goes, they did just put the novel out on Steam a couple of weeks ago, so if you wanted to check that out, you can. It's also on consoles. It's also on here. In terms of when the movies actually come out, because it's definitely way too long for it to just be one, it has to be at least 2. They might even push 3 the same way that they did with Heaven's Feel. Doesn't necessarily need 3, but I could see why from an adaptation standpoint you would want to have that extra space. And you guys already know how that goes with the multiple movies. If there's only 2, then you know that scenes are gonna get cut. If there's 3, then the pacing is more than likely gonna be weird unless the directing is just actually perfect. And how many times does that happen? So it's a real toss up in the air when you get into things like that. There was a demo that came out a while back and it ended around the part where Flat Snark showed up. So it's looking like they're shooting for this to be the climax of that first movie before they move into the second half with Alice taking Sojiro in, them finally going against Toko, and Alco finally tapping into that 5th magic. I've done a whole video about that. That pretty much covers all the ending right then and there. It's a great story, and it leans a lot more on slice of life. That's one of the big things why a certain part of the fandom like it so much, because it shows that different aspect of Nasu's writing. When he decides to highlight that more, it does become a completely different story. And that's why things like the banter between Alco, Sojiro, and the people that they go to school with, or just scenes like her going down to answer the phone in her pajamas, come off as such a big deal, no matter how small it might seem.
Okay, so like
dates
normal life
now,
and all that.
We will be waiting. A lot of people complaining about them not keeping the original designs from Koyama. That's the designer that did the art in the novel itself. As you can see, it leans more to a Takeuchi art style, as it usually does when they do any ufotable work, but it's not a surprise that people would feel some type of way after wanting the character for so long. Now, this really isn't a problem. If they were gonna go for that, they would have chose a whole different studio. I would have preferred if they kept the original, but just because it's Takeuchi's doesn't mean that it's bad. For the most part, it really only comes to be an issue for certain characters like Alco. I really think she looks a lot more like Asuka from Koro no Kyokai, but everybody else kind of stands on their own in terms of design, so it doesn't really matter. You know, people like Beowulf, nobody from Type Moon Animated looks like Beowulf, so it's not going to be a problem. It's just a problem for Alco because she happens to look like Ren, and that of course again goes into that prototype-ish format. The characters that come after them, Ren, Kazuki, they're gonna have similar aspects.
Okay, and then that is it. So let me play this back here. All right, so that is it. And like I said, I'd have to like look at the trailer to like really see everything. Be like, oh, okay, I remember Tsiah talking about this. But yeah, that's it. Now the whole design thing, I'm not even gonna get too much into that. Like, yeah, usually I probably would know. I mean, there's only like a few anime that I know certain like artists who would have certain styles and maybe like manga or something like that. You know, they like took over mainly as the main like artist or designer. But for Fate, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's pretty much a lot going on there. But honestly, yeah, it kind of just looked like the same style of art, you know. Well, especially for like what Fate. Well, let's see. I would kind of say like Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Wars. Those were like kind of like the same thing basically. Even Heaven's Feel, yeah, obviously all that's about the same. And I do know there's some other series that may have an almost a little bit different. So yeah, well, Lord Elmalor, yeah, I think that's about the same, but I feel like, yeah, I got that different feeling from it, you know. So that's why I also liked it as well. Like, yeah, it had sort of like a different feeling, making it really feel like a different anime, you know, not just a regular old Fate. Like, no, this is detective work, like, you know, usually what I like, you know, doing something smart, you know, detective like. Perfect. Wow, yeah, just perfectly on that. Yeah, I like this type of style. Can't believe I really just got on this random frame too. But yeah, you got that. But yeah, I don't know. Oh, okay, now see, I'm like, okay, so it's upside down. I didn't even see that first. Okay. From what I can see, like a glowing eye and then some darker eye. Okay. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta look twice and you'll see extra details. But I mean, so far, I mean, I can't see. Yeah, I don't think he could really show the trailer. I guess he was showing like little clips, or not clips, but little pictures of it, I guess here. But I mean, I don't see nothing wrong. Ufotable, you can't go wrong with them. Clearly, from what I've seen so far. And I ain't gonna lie, yeah, this got me feeling like getting back into like a Fate series. And I'm trying to see which one exactly, because I know I've gone through the main ones, at least the ones that I should have. And right now, I guess you could say sort of taking like a break so I could have time to either, yeah, look at explained videos like this and understand more of Fate. So maybe I can get introduced to something like this. Yeah, this does seem interesting. Yeah, witches and stuff, I guess. Yeah. Something that I guess I wouldn't really see too much in Fate, you know, really just, yeah, the main servants, rider and all that. It's either, whether it's servants or not, yeah, just something related to like a rider, archer or something, you know, maybe just swords in general. But yeah, witch, like, yeah, it's a little different. Oh yeah, and then, yeah, movies too. Yeah, I'm trying to see that, like, really sit down and like watch a good movie. Reacting to is what I mean. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still got to see what type of time I got, because yeah, I got like school right now, and yeah, that's gonna take up some time. And yeah, I want the reaction to be like pretty good, you know. I don't want it be like, okay, yeah, just do this just to be doing it. Like, yeah, I want to be ready for it. Oh yeah, the puppets too. Yeah, I obviously could tell. Yeah, it's gonna be something like this. But yeah, is it like, you know, regular human puppets that like standing up, or something kind of creepy, scary, I guess, looking like this? Yeah, that's some detail. I was looking at the shadow. Yo, especially detail. What was it? I think where they had that field at. Let me see. Yeah, ooh, right here. I'm like, wow, that is something. Yeah, as you just go up the street there, man. Okay, yeah, little dots of snow. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I have to see. And yeah, I'm gonna learn more a little bit, like, yeah, the artists and designers and all that. Cause like, well, I know, yeah, it's completely probably different from Fate, but for Dragon Ball, I know there's certain people like Toyotaro, who is basically the main like artist for like the Dragon Ball Super manga right now, so I would know that. But like Fate, I mean, yeah, like Dragon Ball Super, yeah, that's like a main thing. Like, yeah, they're mainly focusing on that, and maybe like one other thing that they're about to release, like, well, this year. But Fate, like, yeah, I don't know what's currently in the works, or what they're planning on doing, or what is there's something that's been going on for like 2 years now, and they're still continuing that. So yeah, there's a lot going on in Fate. So I wouldn't know like the main artists for some of that, and maybe even like directors or something, right? Who maybe directed certain movies and directed like Unlimited Blade Works or something like that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it off here. Kind of understand the story here, the two sisters and all, and of course it's something like, yeah, you train your whole life for this, and now it's like, yeah, it's just getting taken away from you. So kind of understandable. Who wouldn't really be feeling a certain way? Like, I mean, not everybody's gonna be trying to just kill someone, right, or get revenge, I guess. But still, you'll really just be thinking like, wow, really, like, why her of all people when you've been setting me up for this? See, I've seen that happen plenty of times. But yeah, I think that's it. And yeah, Alice, yeah, she got me kind of interested just because of that outfit. Like, yeah, she really got that on. And of course, it's got to be something related to what was it, Alice in Wonderland or something. Because usually Fate, they relate some of their characters or something to like either something historical, way back, or maybe even something that's just commonly known to people already. So of course you got to be related to something like that. But yeah, I'm gonna just end it off here. Hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure you like, subscribe again, and yeah, just see you guys in the next one.